Universal harmony. 1. In that great verdant arc of lands that forms the northeastern rim of the Indian Ocean, and that takes the Bay of Bengal into its embrace, sweeping out from Sri Lanka and up the coasts of eastern India to Bangladesh and Burma, then down the Malay Peninsula to Thailand and Malaysia, and then further down the coast of Sumatra to the western tip of Java, there are gods without number. Hinduism, in the full profusion of its various forms, is of course the dominant religion only of India, the Tamils of Sri Lanka, and the greater Indian diaspora of Southeast Asia. At one time or another, however, the Vedic deities have held sway over all these shores. Among the Hinayana Buddhist peoples of the region, the Sinhalese of Sri Lanka, and most of the native inhabitants of Thailand and Burma, or Myanmar if one prefers, they have always enjoyed a high, if subordinate, eminence in the order of religious devotions. The Chinese communities of the Malay Peninsula and Indonesia, being Mahayana Buddhist for the most part, but also Taoist and Confucian, are attended by bodhisattvas and divinities of a more remote provenance. Islam is the official faith of Bangladesh and Malaysia, and the dominant religion of Indonesia. Christianity, Catholic and Protestant, has a presence in all these lands, in some cases small but substantial, in others somewhat more fugitive and beleaguered. As for the aboriginal animisms of the indigenous peoples, such as the Nat worship of Burma, none of the great faiths of the far or near East has succeeded in extinguishing them. And, needless to say perhaps, in very many places the demarcations between differing traditions are lost in a golden haze of generous and unreflective syncretism. Very few of those who live at the upper periphery of the Indian Ocean doubt that, among the many supernatural powers keeping watch over those waters, benign or capricious, transcendent or local, omnipotent or merely mighty, there is at least one who is able to govern their tides and turbulences and to keep the sea within its appointed bounds. Far below the water's surface, however, at and beneath the ocean floor, lies a source of elemental violence so vast, convulsive, unpredictable, perennial, and destructive that one might almost be tempted to think that it is itself a particularly indomitable and infernal sort of god. And in fact, the most enduring manifestations of its power above sea level, those grim volcanic islands that lie in a long catenate archipelago off the western shores of Indonesia, have in their time no doubt been objects of worship, supplication, propitiation, and pious dread. These islands are situated along perhaps the most volatile geodynamic fissure in the world, the place where apparently two enormous tectonic plates, the Indo-Australian and the Eurasian, upon whose edge Sumatra and Java are precariously poised, continuously pass one another by in their slow, interminable millennial migrations. It is an immense seam of unquenchable fire that down through the geological epochs has shaped and reshaped this entire crescent of islands and continental littorals. Its forces do not subside, and it is never truly dormant, but it does know long intervals of comparative stability, during which life above goes on largely undisturbed. Up there, when the weather is calm, the water is a smooth, immeasurable, tremulous mirror of the tropical sky, gleaming like silver, furling with crystalline brilliancy, its waves sapphire blue at their crests and a deep glassy green in their inner folds. Tourists, upon whom many of the countries of the region so desperately depend, come by the thousands in order, for the most part, to luxuriate on ivory beaches and gaze out at the beauty of the ocean, and marvel at the extravagant lushness of the South Asian flora. On good days, it must be all but impossible to imagine the slow, constant, savage geological ferment so many fathoms down. When, though, the power lurking below the marine fault does break forth with full strength, the devastation it wreaks is more terrible than the mind can easily encompass. It was here, for instance, in 1883, in the Strait of Sunda between Sumatra and Java, that the entire island of Krakatoa exploded, killing more than 36,000 persons.